Hey everyone, I always love having conversations with people that I have chatted with on the podcast before because I get to catch up with them. And Dr. Kevin Christie is no different. He was on the show back in 2018. I think a few things have changed for him in that time. However, he is still so committed to helping chiropractors and healthcare professionals expand their marketing and not only showing them and coaching them how to do it, but even offering services that can help you do that, as well as having a long running, really great podcast that I still tune into. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, Kevin. Thanks for joining me again.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me on again.
So 7
Mhm.
years since we chatted last.
Yeah.
At that point in time, you had a couple of podcasts. You had
Mhm.
no children. I don't think you were married yet. So a few things in your
Yeah.
personal life and your business life have
Mhm.
evolved. So maybe just give us, and listeners, I'm going to put in the show notes the previous episode so you can listen to
Mhm.
that show. But maybe give us a quick summary of who's Dr. Kevin Christie, what are you
Yeah.
doing now, and then we'll dive into some of the gems that I know you're going to share with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in my 20th year of practice as a chiropractor, still doing that part-time and own my clinic. And then, about 10 years ago, started diving into content marketing for chiropractors and didn't monetize it in any way. It was just trying to help people out. And it was about July of 2016, started a closed Facebook group, which we still have, Modern Chiropractic Marketing. And it's about 5,000 members in there and still pretty actively engaged, and just was putting out free content, and then ultimately, built a business around that. And so now, Modern Chiropractic Marketing, which is my was my side hustle back when I was last on this podcast, is I would say now my main hustle. It's bigger than my practice. Practice is still going well, and doing both. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. Two kids, 5 and 3, two boys, and married, and full house, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
No, I love those times. 5 and 3, those are such
Mhm.
fun years. But that's a really interesting statement that you just said. So now things have
Yeah.
basically flipped,
Mhm.
and what was your side hustle has now become your full-time hustle.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that evolution. I mean, I think you've always been able to really, in your communication style and with your Facebook group, really been able to
Mhm.
tap into the needs of an evolving marketing market, we'll say. But was
Yeah.
it, something that you just really feel inspired to do? Was it
Mhm.
based on other circumstances? Like, how did you slowly evolve into where you're at now with the
Mhm.
work you're doing for chiropractors?
Yeah, honestly, it's probably two things if I had to earmark it. And one was in 2013, I had joined Strategic Coach, which is an entrepreneur coaching group around, business and everything. And about 2014, maybe late 2014, they had sent out some information on Joe Polish's Genius Network. I didn't join that, but I was like, who's this Joe Polish guy? And looked up, and he had a podcast called I Love Marketing with Dean Jackson. So I started consuming that. And then diving into some other things with the Content Marketing Institute from Joe Polizzi, really to apply it to my practice. Because around that time, there was a couple big events happening in my life, and so to kind of package it all. And the first one was joining Strategic Coach, and then there was that strategic byproduct of the Joe Polish stuff. And then around that time, I'm applying this to my practice because two things was really happening. One was we were going from in network to out of network, because in Florida, where I'm at, American Specialty Health, or ASHOLS as we call them, took over a couple of the big insurance policies and cut our reimbursement in half.
Mm.
And so that was a struggle. And then honestly, in my personal life, was going through a divorce, didn't have any kids or anything. So that was easier, and it was a clean split. But yeah, it's always challenging. And so I had some extra time on my hands, and was really, filling that void after work with trying to create content and, help people out, keep myself busy. And it's one of those things where, um, I think it was about a year and a half ago. I really need to figure out who said that, because she was on a podcast, and I wish I remember her name, but they were talking about the idea of being resilient. And the way she framed it was so good. It wasn't about, like, a lot of people use the term or the phrase bouncing back, which is fine. But she talked about the idea of actually bouncing forward. So really, to be
Mm.
very resilient is when you can bounce forward. So take something that's challenging in your life and get even better from that. And ultimately, I think that's what happened with me professionally. Was not only we're, getting our kind of insurance reimbursement cut in half, and then obviously going through my personal life stuff, I poured into this, and it really helped me bounce forward professionally, and then ultimately personally. And so that's really the genesis of it, and then just kept at it consistently. And I think that's the key takeaway for anybody is the consistency of it, for sure.
Yeah, I'm listening to you chat, and I think that we've had some similarities in our trajectory. I
Hmm.
think we actually first met in a coaching group or a program for
Hmm.
content for podcasting, right? Probably.
Yeah.
And I did content marketing, 15 years ago because my kids were little and they were in school. And I was also going through a transition of divorce,
Hmm.
but with kids. And I'm like, if I create content, I can do this when they're sleeping. And it's a great way to share what I
Yeah.
know and try to build a practice that way. So I kind of fell into it. And then same thing when I started the first podcast, it was like, I just feel like there's a voice here. I had no business ideas from it. And it just slowly evolved and kept growing as my life changed too. So
Hmm.
it's interesting to see, right? Like
Yeah.
different reasons for going through different roads. I love what you said about bouncing forward because I do think it's
Yeah.
true. People, it's all perspective, right? And I'm sure your involvement in Strategic Coach has helped you with mindset. And we
Yeah.
get back to the show being all about growth. How much
Hmm.
of growth is mindset in your opinion?
Yeah. Oh, it's so much, and it's interesting, right? Going back to a really good book that Strategic Coach did write called 10x is easier than 2x, and in there, what you want to do is a lot of times if you try to project forward 10 years and create something like what would be the big thing that you'd want to create in and let's just say your professional life, but you could combine the whole thing, professional and personal. A lot of times people have a little bit of a limited vision of what they can accomplish in 10 years. But if you look back and see what you did over the last 10 years, you're like, holy shit, like I did a lot in the last 10 years. And that's the thing that I've been able to glean from it was like, okay, obviously it's April of 2025 right now as we record. Where was I at April of 2015? And I didn't have any of this stuff. And so
Mhm.
what I really 10x'd, and it's not just in finances, right? When they talk about 10x, it's purpose, it's freedom of time, maybe it's maybe you've built another business, right? There's different things. And
Mhm.
so I definitely have 10x'd over the last 10 years. So that helps me create what my next 10-year vision is going to be, and not limit myself. And so I think we can learn a lot from where we did, whether not, some people haven't had to go through something significant yet. At some point, if you live long enough, you're going to.
Mhm.
So, but the idea of bouncing forward is really good. But it doesn't mean you have to go through something very challenging or, a loss like that to do it. But it gives you perspective, I think.
Yeah, I think pain is relative for people, right? So some
Yeah.
people will never go through a divorce, but maybe they go
Hmm.
through heartbreak or loss of a loved one, or they're grieving, or they've got business challenges. I mean, everyone has their
Yeah.
things to work through in life, and it's how we show
Hmm.
up that shapes
Yep.
the future course of it. And I like what you said about growth. I mean, this show has been about, certainly practice growth, but
Hmm.
what I hope listeners gather from the different conversations we've had is that it is not just one-sided. Like sometimes your growth comes from, sure, the money goes up, but maybe the money in your
Hmm.
practice went up, or the collections or the patient visits, because actually you're happier at home
Hmm.
because maybe your mindset is different, or maybe your relationship got stable, or you added new kids to your household, or you're
Yep.
growing as a human. And I don't think we can isolate that type of growth
Hmm.
into, we know in our practices they're organic, right? They're reflections of who
Hmm.
we are. So looking at the life as a whole, and what you just said, like your life in 10 years has
Yep.
exponentially grown, fatherhood, different businesses, tapping into your
Hmm.
skills in a different way. So it's really really wonderful to see.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's always it's a work in progress. We're always trying to grow, and ultimately trying to make sure that I don't get burned out with it, right? So I think one part of growth that people struggle with visioning is that they're here now, wherever that is, and they
Mhm.
say, well, I can't do a whole lot more. But it's just hard, really visioning what you can have and maybe the team members that you have around you that you didn't have before. Because like if I went back when I started MCM, I couldn't imagine having all the things we have going on with MCM right now, because in my mind, I just would have been thinking about, I can't do all that. But I've got a team around me now that handles a lot of the heavy lifting, which allows me to really focus on the vision and content creation and things of that nature, so that my integrator can really make the magic happen with that.
What's interesting, Kevin, is when I look back to your previous episode with me, the
Yeah.
Rock Your Life tip that we pulled out was, this is the quote: find a niche that you love, focus on your unique abilities, and delegate the rest.
Yeah, there you go. I'm still at it, still trying to get better at it too.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, I think that's a big thing that people fail to get to in their life as they progress. And so they hit, I'm 45 now, and so they hit about my age, and they're still kind of on that struggle bus of doing everything, and
Hmm.
they haven't put enough, say, margin in their life, profit margin, time margin, things like that, to be able to expand and grow. And delegation is definitely a big part of that.
Hmm. Speaking of delegation, I mean, you have a team, which
Mhm.
is great. I feel that among some of the challenges that docs find when it comes to marketing their practice, there's a few of
Mhm.
them, and I'd love your ideas on this. But one of them is certainly feeling like they have to do all of it, or they don't know how to.
Mhm.
It's overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know how you have a team, so this is great. But for the average doc who's maybe a solo
Mhm.
practitioner,
Yeah.
let's see if we can start to dive into some conversation around, like,
Mhm.
okay, the biggest challenges that docs have around marketing their practice, and
Yeah.
then maybe a few solutions so that people can take
Mhm.
away some practical things today.
Yeah, absolutely. And starting out, I strongly believe all chiropractors need to be marketing their practice. And, there's online marketing and all that type of stuff. And there's also kind of boots on the ground, community outreach stuff. Those are two big buckets that a lot of things fall under, those
Hmm.
two things. You could obviously layer in the patient experience and generating more referrals and targeting that. But we'll call that, basically internal marketing. So there can be kind of
Hmm.
three buckets
Retention
there. But
strategies, right? You keep the people
yeah,
in once they come. Yeah.
exactly. Like me, I mean, off the top of your head, like if you emailed your patients once a week with content, that's one strategy to corral those folks and keep them top of mind, right? So
Yeah.
those are kind of the big few buckets there for marketing. And then you got to ask yourself, everybody's in a different stage of their career, and it's like, okay, maybe you're 29 years old and you've got more time than money, right? Maybe you're 49 years old and you got more money than time. And so time, time or money is potentially going to be one of your resources that you need to leverage. And so maybe again, everybody's different, but maybe the 49-year-old
Yeah.
chiropractor can invest $2,000 or $3,000 a month in marketing and have other people doing that for them, right? Maybe the 29-year-old chiropractor has more time than money and is doing it themselves and learning it, but understanding that as they grow and they start to get more revenues and profits, then they want to reinvest a certain percentage of that to get that off their plate, so that because they're going to hit a point where they have less time because they're busy with patients, and then maybe
Hmm.
they start having kids and things like that come about. So there's this kind of step-by-step process where you got to start leveraging, maybe it's the time you have currently or it's the money you have currently, to get the marketing done. But your practice has to have marketing. Again, maybe that 49-year-old doctor also, and obviously I'm speaking in generalities here, but maybe they have some money and they've got an associate doctor, right?
Hmm.
Or maybe they have a community liaison they could hire part-time to do a lot of the community outreach stuff. And so who in your practice is doing this stuff, you need to have it, and you want to figure out what you can leverage to do that. Again, whether it's time or money, or maybe you just have a unique skill knowledge in marketing and you can leverage that efficiently, and that will get
Hmm.
you results as well.
So when you think about some of the common challenges that maybe members of your
Mhm.
Facebook community or docs bring up to you
Yeah.
that need coaching on, the
Mhm.
current, let's say, the top three problems or challenges that people face with marketing, what do you think they would
Yeah.
be?
Well, obviously everybody's going to say new patients, right? But it always
Yeah.
boils down to office visits, right? New patients is something that, um, we always talk about, but it really always boils down to office visits, which then boils down to collections, and
Right.
that's a key thing. But we want to typically increase office visits. Now, if you are, and I will answer the question, I'm going to give a little bit of context. If you are in a
Hmm.
situation where your schedule is maxed out, and you still don't have enough margin, which does happen. I've got busy and broke chiropractors, right? They're just
Yeah.
swamped with patients, but there's not enough profit margin in
Yeah.
and basically the business model they have. And so we have to look at that. But we may need to do some marketing that's going to compel the right types of patients that are going to be willing to pay a little bit more and be willing to repel some others. So we may have to chisel that stone a little bit into a statue that we have, which is not that hard actually. You know, if we've got a big bustling practice of patients, we can definitely work that pretty well. But typically, the challenges are right now, I would say, is a lot of our docs are I don't want to say complaining, but let's just say they're concerned
Hmm.
that they're losing out in the community to some more of the tech savvy kind of younger docs that are doing a lot with Instagram and social media, and they're taking a lot of the kind of the marketing space there with that. And so I think a lot of the docs that are transitioning into that second half of their career, their big concern is keeping up with the technology of
Yeah.
marketing. So that'd be my number one.
Hmm.
I would say definitely number two is having the bandwidth and kind of a strategy to build and cultivate a really good network in the community
Mm.
that's referring to them consistently. I think that's definitely a big one.
Hmm.
And then I think the third I'm going to say, and I don't know if everybody's fearful or concerned about this yet, but they're starting to get there a bit, is the role of AI on search. Obviously, there's going to be AI in the role on a lot of things in our life,
Yeah.
but one of the things that we're starting to recognize is AI's role on search, and that's a pretty good kind of topic to dive into a little bit.
Yeah, it brings up for me the idea of, when you talk about some of the, we'll say older docs,
Mhm.
because I'm 51 and I dabble in social media. I really don't pay for any marketing right now.
Mhm.
And it's been very organic, like my practice growth, but I've also been in this community for 23 years. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy to have a referral based practice. I do outreaches and I do events and I do a lot of things we talk about, but I do them less now than I did 15 years ago because my
Yeah.
practice is also at a volume that I'm comfortable with. There's always room for growth,
Mhm.
but I'm with you when you talk about like we need to look at the whole office visit experience because I think the worst thing that can happen for some offices is they get this massive influx of new patients, but
Mhm.
then either they don't have the systems or the procedures or the certainty, or these people don't stick around. So let's say you spend a lot of time and money trying to attract new people or in your content,
Yep.
and it's not really the return on all that time and energy investment that you hope
Mhm.
for.
Yeah, we actually just had a coaching call today on optimizing patient adherence or retention, whatever word you wanted to use. But we
Yeah.
have a whole thing that we do with our coaching clients on adherence and making sure that they do all the things right, that these patients do adhere. Because not only are they going to get better outcomes if they adhere to their treatment plan, but they're also, it's better business, right? You don't want a leaky bucket. And
Yeah.
that's one thing we always try to make sure we do. And it's been cool to now leverage AI. Like one of the things we're doing in our company is human plus AI is better than AI, and it's also better than just human, right? So it's the combination of human and AI. And then we have this, like we've done a good job over the years of coaching where we've recorded all our coaching calls. We've got it all linked up with resources. I mean, we got this kind of hub of all these things. And so now I'm putting together these particular lesson packs for our members. And one of them was a patient adherence lesson pack where I went in and then I would take like a coaching video that I did and I run it through Descript. So I get the transcript. Then I take the
Yeah.
transcript and I run it through the paid version of Grok 3. Pick your AI, I don't care. And then I upload that attachment. So it's my knowledge, it's my creating coaching call, upload it on there, and I tell it to build me a playbook on patient adherence. And I want it to be this, I get all the prompts, and now it spits out a really cool playbook, which is just another word we use for standard operating procedure, but it's a little more concise. It's not this like, living tomb of 400 pages that make no sense. It's really concise. And then we link up to like, okay, here's strategy A for that, strategy B for that. And it's just a nice, concise way. And so, yeah, we want our chiropractors making sure that they've filled any leaky holes in the bucket. And now utilizing AI, we can make it very easy for them to digest and build out actual systems for their practice.
Hmm. I'm very hesitant of AI, to be honest. I have
Yeah.
not embraced it yet, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
completely okay saying that. I may be the one, one of the very few
Yep.
people out in this world right now.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I just I like what you said though about combining with the human, right? Like
Yeah.
our human abilities for me, they will always surpass what
Mm-hmm.
a computer can do. And people can
Yeah.
correct me or tell me I'm wrong, but I just think there's something different about our
Mm-hmm.
brains work innately and how we function, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think there's a lot of people like that, but you're starting to change. And I told a story recently on my podcast, like with the AI and search situation that's happening is I
Yeah.
had a 69-year-old patient. I asked him how he found me, and he's like, "Oh, I found you through Grok." And I'm like, "Really? How did you prompt that?" And basically his daughter sees a chiropractor that's about 45 minutes away from me, and they all like she loves him, a great chiropractor. So he prompted, find me a chiropractor like Dr. So and so who is in West Palm Beach, but I want him to be in Boca Raton, Florida, and it spit me out. And I practice very similar to that doctor. I know that doctor in West Palm Beach, and so
Right.
it was very accurate. And I was like, wow, that's gonna happen. That's happening now. And then so we started running through some prompts in Grug, and it was like really interesting. And then uh, a couple weeks after that, at Parker Vegas, I wasn't there, but a colleague of mine was there, and Gary Vaynerchuk, who a lot of
Yeah.
people know, he was one of the guest speakers there, and he talked about those that are creating consistent content over time are going to do better in the AI search. So people, essentially for your audience right now, people are going to start using AI for search because it's a lot more nuanced and it can give them a really direct answer. And those that have created a really good content consistently over time, that's where Grok or ChatGPT or Claude, any of those, that's where they're going to get this information. And so Gary
Mhm.
Vee was talking about those that. So it's kind of like one of those things where when I started content marketing 10 years ago, I obviously had no idea about AI,
Right.
but luckily I kept on consistently doing it for my practice and now I'm benefiting from it. And so content marketing is such a great way of building your practice. And now we've got one more reason why it is.
Because the searchability of the content that you're creating is going into the AI platforms, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if it that, I could feel like we could talk exclusively about content
Hmm.
marketing.
Yep.
And we talk about ways to grow your practice. I mean, the
Mhm.
idea of modern marketing, what does
Yep.
that actually mean to you?
Yeah. So again, I'll use content marketing as my strategic approach that I'm always going to do because my goal is always to be a leading educator in the community, or
Mhm.
like obviously for the profession as well. So that's always been my thing. I mean, when I started practicing in 2005, I was always out in the community doing public speaking, and then when social media happened, I was doing that, and video, YouTube, I was shooting videos. I always wanted to consider myself a leading educator because that's how you're going to position yourself as an expert, right? And
Mhm.
so that's the foundation of, in my opinion, of how a chiropractor can really cut through the clutter. And then I think modern marketing is just applying modern technologies to the essence of content marketing, right? So
Mhm.
I was doing in 2006, I was doing content marketing, but it looked like me sending out. I remember I sent out written invitations to all the fitness trainers in the area because I was hosting a Saturday workshop on how to prevent injuries in your clients, and I
Right.
got like 12 personal trainers to come to our clinic, and it was a good talk. But that was the vehicle that I had back then, which was letters and stopping by the gyms. Okay. Now in 2025, we're about to host an event in a month. Guess what I'm not doing? I'm not sending out a letter,
No.
right? So, so the modern part to me is just keeping up with the modern delivering systems
Mhm.
to get it out there. Like a podcast is modern, AI is modern, Google's still modern, social media is modern, and it doesn't mean you have to do everything, right? Like one of the kind of conundrums I run into is that my company is called Modern Chiropractic Marketing. And so everybody expects me to do every damn thing that's modern. And like, I'm not going to be on TikTok. It's just not what I want to be. I don't want to be on TikTok. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't mean you have to do everything, but you definitely got to stay up to the times and be modern to build a practice that's also going to have some longevity so that when you do plan on exiting and you want to sell it, it's actually even more sellable.
It's like leveraging the best of what technology and how it evolves, right? And what society is using as different
Yep.
platforms for communication, right? Um, when we think about, don't not having to do everything, I also love that
Hmm.
analogy because I'll start up with my clients too and say, like, just because you can do a podcast or you can do
Hmm.
video or you can do social media, like all of these things are great ideas to help grow your practice. But I
Hmm.
don't believe everyone has to do everything or should do everything. I mean,
Correct.
you and I have both probably watched videos that maybe were not super engaging or
Hmm.
podcasts that were not, the sound was horrible. Like, can we
Yep.
talk a little bit about that? Like the need to find a way to market your practice that really
Mhm.
is reflective of who you are and your brand, but also
Yep.
your personality, like what works for your lifestyle at this moment in
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good point. You don't have to, it's kind of like the, inch deep and a mile wide versus, an inch wide and a mile deep type of situation. So sometimes
Yeah.
people can, like if I say the name, Tim Ferriss, people think podcast, right? He's
Mhm.
gone deep on that, but he obviously went real deep on books prior to podcasts. So, and he hasn't written a book in quite a while now. So he's kind of an example where someone that he just goes all in on one thing. And
Mhm.
you don't think of Tim Ferriss as a marketer, but he's
No.
really good at it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that I like about content marketing is that I think a lot of doctors are concerned about being considered marketers because we've
Right.
all seen doctors that are kind of like they're just more sizzle than steak.
Yeah.
um, and I think a lot of chiropractors, a lot of doctors don't want to be like that. And so
Mhm.
what I like about content marketing is it's kind of it's a form of invisible marketing
Mhm.
where you're again becoming a leading educator, and so maybe you happen to be really good on video and you can go deep on that. Maybe you are very good with injury prevention workshops in the community. Great, do it.
Mhm.
Maybe you're just really good on one-on-one coffees and MD marketing, and you can do that. And then
Yeah.
if you hire an associate, you can see what you're not good at and have them do it, and you kind of have a well-rounded approach there. But yeah, I get it. Like we're doctors and we're busy. I can't expect you to be a world class, like doing every marketing thing there is and being precise on your ROI and your engagement and all that. And so a lot of times it's just
Mhm.
picking something and going with it until you can add from there. For me, for MCM, it was just the podcast and the Facebook
Yeah.
group. Those were only the two things we did. And then now we've got a whole host of things we do to kind of get our brand out there.
Yeah, I think about content marketing as a way to pull people towards you rather than push yourselves on them, right? It's like
Yep.
creating
Mhm.
content, whether it's again podcasting, blog
Yep.
posts, videos, whatever it's going to be. You're just trying to inspire and educate and show your
Mhm.
services in a way
Yep.
that is sharing good information for free for people and
Yep.
then inviting them to seek your services further, right? So I think there's a really
Mhm.
something to be said for how soft it can be for people, but
Yep.
that does come from the delivery, right? It comes from how
Mhm.
people show up. And I always recommend that people really get clear on their why and who they are, which it sounds
Yep.
like you've completely done when you're saying to me first, like, your
Mhm.
goal is to be a leading educator. Like you made that
Yep.
decision for yourself
Mhm.
years ago. And whether you were out doing one-on-one visits with trainers or in your practice
Mhm.
community or, with online content, that was your goal. And so you were able to anchor yourself to that being the purpose. So I
Yep.
think this could be a good reminder for you listeners. Like, if you want to grow your practice and market your practice, really get connected with who you are first and the kind of
Mhm.
practice that you want. And I would also invite you to take a step back and check in, like, where's your practice at now? Like, have your clinical skills changed? Has your demographic changed? Are your interests different? Sometimes we get, we're consistent on the things that we're doing without taking a step back to reflect and go, okay, well, where am I at now? And how do I want to market and position myself in a type of authority at this stage?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you got to be honest with yourself too, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're, like you mentioned, demographics change, or a lot of times we talk about psychographics, which is going to be more like the values,
Yeah.
personality traits, and stuff like that of a consumer. And sometimes there's a mismatch. Like if I went back 12 years ago when I was an in-network provider,
Hmm.
we had a lot of CrossFit patients. And it
Right.
was a perfect mix of psychographics and demographics, and it was great. And then when we went out of network and we're a little higher cash rate, we still had a match on the psychographics, but we had a mismatch on the demographics because they tend to have a hard time even just really paying for this is generality, but paying for the
Yeah.
CrossFit membership, let alone expensive chiropractic care. And so, not
Yeah.
that we don't get CrossFitters, and we still do, but it's not one of our big target audiences now, right? Because it's a demographic mismatch for us.
Yeah. It brings up to mind for me as well, the challenges that docs have and how you are solving some of them with the company that you have
Mhm.
and the services that you do. If you were to think about, using modern marketing and the technologies and leveraging them right now, what do you think is
Mhm.
working, or in your observations, what's working the best?
Video is always great, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be a YouTube celebrity, get ad money from YouTube, or you're going to be an Instagram influencer. It just means that you're getting video out there. It's got a really good impact. You're gonna send that video via email, maybe weekly. That's what we do in our practice. You're gonna
Hmm.
upload that to your YouTube channel, so that helps with search. You're gonna build out conditions and services pages on your website with videos of you demonstrating certain techniques you do, discussing and demonstrating certain conditions you treat. You're going to get videos on there. You're going to run some videos on Instagram and Facebook. And I just really believe that's a really big one.
Hmm.
And then I think the combination of, I think that I'm going to take a step back a little bit. One of the things that I see is the biggest missing link for most chiropractic practices is having a fully involved strategy to market to their current and past patients, right? They're not doing anything to stay top of mind, and you'd be surprised with how quickly people do forget about you. And so having a well-rounded approach of emailing your patients, here's some quick strategies on that. Emailing your patients, definitely text message campaigns, reactivation campaigns through certain services like Trackstat or Aloha, which used to be
Hmm.
Review Wave. And there's others out there, but using a service that does that. So going back to your, what's modern now? Well, sometimes psychology becomes different in modern times. And like if I said to
Hmm.
you 7 years ago, texting your patients, people are like, oh God, I don't know about that. A lot of people nowadays, people are used to it. Like almost all your businesses text you now, right? My coffee shop, I just had a coffee before I got here, texted me my rewards. You get that. People are used to that now. And so
Yeah.
text message campaigns, reactivation campaigns are going to be huge.
Hmm.
Certain things like with our clients is you can actually upload your email list into a Facebook audience. And let's say their email address that you have is linked to their Facebook account. You could have, like, let's say you upload 3,000 email addresses in there and 2,000 of
Hmm.
them are linked to their Facebook account. You now have an audience of 2,000 people that were current or past patients, and you could run ads like videos of you
Hmm.
educating them, and only they see it. And so now you got these video. They're seeing your content, and when they see your video on headaches, like, oh yeah, headaches. I didn't know she treated headaches. Great. Now they come in and they see you, and so maybe you spend $500, $1,000, $750, whatever it is, to get videos in front of your current and past patients. And if you did a few of those things, um, I mean, just that's a modern way to staying top of mind to your
Hmm.
patients. That's not going to cost you a lot of money, honestly.
Hmm. What I liked about what you just said, whether it's on Facebook or just doing videos, is I think it's important for listeners to see that you can create videos. And if you're not sure about the content and putting it out to the public, you can create these places like a private Facebook group or something, or even
Yeah.
if you put things on YouTube that no one, you can make a private link, right? Or you can put it
Hmm.
unlisted so that you can actually really have these conversations. And I do that with my practice. It's like, hey, everyone, here's what's coming up next week. I want to make sure that
Yeah.
so it's not something that's timely. It's going to be dated on YouTube. And
Hmm.
especially if there's sometimes sensitive topics or things that are maybe community focused that the general public maybe wouldn't appreciate. I
Yeah.
think there's value in doing that as well and creating that community in that forum that maybe only videos that your practice members can see.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. So we talked about the power of video. Now, a lot of people and listeners, don't forget, there, Dr. Walter Salubro, he does all kinds of YouTube
Mhm.
workshops and services. So if you go back and listen to that episode as well, because we talked specifically about how to get comfortable on video, some do's
Yeah.
and don'ts that he's seeing if you do want to upload things to YouTube. So Kevin, we talked about video,
Mhm.
we talked about reactivation or ways to keep people engaged. Do
Yeah.
you think that people are overwhelmed at all? Like, do you see that in your
Hmm.
groups, or do you feel like
Yeah.
people are okay, I could do all these things, but unless I have a
Yeah.
big team, like how do they pick one thing to do? Or if they listen to this and
Mhm.
they go, gosh, Kevin dropped a ton of information. How do
Yeah.
I even get started? I don't want people to feel overwhelmed. I want them to feel inspired.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, people do get overwhelmed for sure because again, we're doctors. Most of us are doctors first and then have to do the marketing second. And so I think it's a step-by-step
Yeah.
approach. Again, I'll do one last strategic coach reference, but their who not how concept is try to find the who's can do it for you instead of how can you do it.
Mhm.
Again, that sometimes takes some money and resources to do that. And so to get clear on your finances, again, that's a big part of what we do for our clients as well. But I'll reference Greg Crabtree is a great resource. He's got a good book called Simple Numbers 2.0, and he's got another book that preceded that. But we had him come to a nice webinar for us, specifically for our mastermind group on finances and business finances. But he had you really got to monitor your profit margins. Like it's just so
Mhm.
important to have good margin. He believes in paying yourself. Like if you're the owner, you got to pay yourself a pretty good amount, right? Like what's the going rate for a chiropractor? And then after that, you monitor your profit margin and then whatever your profit is. So you would then, let's say you had $10,000 in a month of profit, actual
Mhm.
profit, and you've already paid yourself, then he would have a split of three. One bucket, you're going to pay tax on profit. Second bucket, you would reinvest in the business. Third bucket, you could probably take as a profit distribution for yourself.
Mhm.
He kind of has like a 40-30-30 split. However you want to work that, that's your business. But let's just say you took $3,000 of that 10 and decided to reinvest that in your business. That's where you can start to say, okay, I've got some profit. What am I going to reinvest in the business? And that's when you could say, okay, now I can reinvest in, or I could take this money and I can try 3 months of Facebook, Google ads with these videos I've been shooting and
Mhm.
digest that, right? Okay, now I can afford to get Trackstat or Aloha or whatever. I can implement that. And so
Mhm.
make sure that you're profitable and you're monitoring that, and then take some of that and reinvest in the business step by step by step. So understand your finances and then understand that this isn't an overnight thing. It's just building upon it, right?
Yeah. And, good segue into, if we could, before we wrap up here, talk quickly about
Mhm.
the different services that you actually offer for docs now. It wasn't where you started in your
Mhm.
clinical practice, but it's become your
Yeah.
bigger, work. As we talked
Mhm.
about, your side hustle became your main gig. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the services that you provide for people.
Yeah, and absolutely. And yeah, it was interesting. We didn't monetize it for 2 years. I just was creating free content and then listened to the audience and what they needed. And it's morphed into it. But I think we have a unique offering now where we do coaching for chiropractors, which isn't new to anybody, but we really dive into all things practice growth. I mean, you name it. But
Mm-hmm.
then we marry that with content marketing done for you. We do teach our chiropractors how to shoot 4 videos per month, and then we
Mm-hmm.
take that and we do all the production and distribution of it. And so we get it on their, we send out a weekly email for them. We get it on their Google Business profile. We get it on their YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We do all social posting of that. We get a robust SEO rich blog from Darcy Sullivan, who I know is one of your guests, and we
Mm-hmm.
get that on their website every other month to help with the SEO side of things. And then we got some other things we do on that content side of it. If someone just absolutely refuses to do video, we also have a kind of an audio option to content where they can just
Right.
record their knowledge and we can do it. So there's that. If someone
Yeah.
doesn't need marketing, right? Some people have an in-house marketing person, they can just do coaching only, right? So we got different options for everybody, but I think we have a unique setup where we actually are your marketing for you, but it's not canned content. It's your information. It's you. It's just we do the heavy lifting for you. But then we coach you on those things like finances and patient adherence and report of findings and team leadership and all the things that it takes to be a good practice owner.
Yeah, you're leading them rather than just doing it for you. You're showing them doc skills, how they can
Yeah.
leverage their own abilities and whether they continue
Mhm.
to work with you or not. They
Yep.
know what it takes, right? And they know what the involvement is and why they're investing in other people to do the production side of it, because that can be really certainly daunting for people. A lot of people get intimidated by the technology.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so, and we get clients. We don't do like you got to sign up for a long period of time. We have a short 6 month commitment, and then after that's month to month. And then we have a lot of practices that really built out a lot of their systems, and then kind of graduated from us sometimes, and brought in an
Mm.
in-house person. But they now have spent some time with us to build out all the systems for their practice and modernize it essentially.
Hmm. Now you're a podcaster, and obviously we talked a lot about video as well. And before we wrap up here, I feel like we chatted in the pre-chat
Yeah.
about the video podcasting versus audio podcasting, and how I feel like the pendulum is starting to swing back to people realizing that we
Mhm.
should just do audio because that's the medium that it actually is.
Yeah.
But if docs are wanting to start a podcast,
Mhm.
from your 8 years of experience, I'd love to hear your
Yeah.
take on that.
Yeah, I mean, it always boils down to value, right? Like, if the person is providing really good value and there's substance to it, that's the strategy. That's it's just the same way. It's like you go to a chiropractor, are you getting clinical results? That's the table stakes. And then there's tactics, right? And so with podcasting, there's going to be certain tactics. And I do think there's been a recent tactic of making sure you do really good video. You see some of the top podcasters now, they make them fly in because they got some clout. If Tim Ferriss
Mm.
said you can be on my podcast, yeah, I'd fly to Austin all day long, right? Like I would do
Yeah.
whatever it took, if even if I have to walk there, right? So I think you got some of these really big ones like Rogan and such, where yeah, they can make the person fly in and it's not going to be a big problem and it's going to be a high production value. Like the one gentleman, Chris Williamson, I think Modern Wisdom is his podcast. I
Hmm.
saw he was a guest on something. His podcast production sometimes is upward $20,000, $30,000
Hmm.
per episode, right?
Yeah.
That's outlandish. But he's
Yeah.
he's trying to tactic the algorithms and all the video, and there is definitely something to be said about that. But I've never done like I've only I think published one or two videos of
Yeah.
my podcast, and I've always kept it audio. I like to be on video when we're recording so we can obviously see
Yeah.
each other and it's easier to communicate, but I just kept it audio because that's really what a podcast is. And I
Yeah.
just haven't seen it because there's some value of Zoom like this audios, or sorry,
Mm.
videos for sure. But I think the real value, if you're going to do video and podcasts, is where you're together and you're in a nice setting, you got great all production and all that. I could see why some of the top podcasters do it. And they're obviously trying to optimize for YouTube as well. But I think if your substance is there and the value is there, you're going to be fine with just audio.
Yeah, and I think keep your budget in mind and keep the
Yep.
production. I mean, I went into podcasting because I had been doing television and
Mhm.
the lights, the camera, the hair, the makeup,
Yeah,
the clothes, like all of that stuff has to be, it's a next level of
it
production.
is.
And I
Yeah.
was like, give me like just a microphone and my bare
Yeah.
feet in my living room.
Mhm.
And now I can actually impact more people because I can have these
Yeah.
conversations. So I've always been like, let's just do audio. Now you may be watching this because this short
Yeah.
series I promised I would put on YouTube as well. I did hear an
Mhm.
interesting stat last week, and it was that men versus women on their podcast habits. And the stat was that men are more likely to watch a podcast, interview,
Mhm.
conversation, and women are more likely to listen to it. And
Mhm.
the commentary was about women are often, trying to do other things. There
Mhm.
that analogy, women are always multitasking, and whether it's true or not, but we'll see. I mean, if you've got the time and
Mhm.
unlimited resources and you love being on both, you can do both. But most people,
Mhm.
I'm going to say absolutely what you said, focus on the audio
Yeah.
and get your audio quality good
Yeah.
because have it produced. It's probably one of the things that I spent the most money on in all of my
Mhm.
shows is like just having it produced
Yeah.
so that I could focus on the conversation and, all the other pieces of it. But if the audio is not very good, people don't want to listen to it.
Yeah, and the audio is important because it's the big key of audio and why podcasting has been so successful is because it's a second activity for people, right? Like for
Yeah.
me, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I don't watch them. I listen to them when I'm doing my patient notes, which is great. I
Yeah.
do it when I'm driving, when I go for walks, I'm in the gym.
Yeah.
I was at the coffee shop this morning. Tuesday morning is kind of my coffee shop day. I was there for 3 hours and I was listening to podcasts and getting work done.
Yeah.
And so don't fail to realize that the audio as a second activity is really the beauty of it.
And it's still a great way to connect with people, right?
Yep.
Like they're hearing your voice and they're feeling like they're hearing a little piece of you and they trust and
Mhm.
like you, right? Because they're
Yep.
making that voice connection rather than just reading a blog post or something like that. So there's
Yep.
definitely something to be said. We've covered a lot of ground here, I think.
Mhm.
In true Rockstar Doctor Life Star style,
Mhm.
you are evolving with your business, right? You're
Yep.
consistently, it seems like, evaluating what success looks like to you now that you've got a young family. How do you
Mhm.
manage all these different pieces? Like you've got a little
Yeah.
clinical practice, I mean, or you've got a clinical
Mhm.
practice, which is a smaller part of your business, and you have this marketing company, and you're
Yeah.
coaching, and you're learning, and you're committed to your family. Like, what are
Mhm.
your tips for making all of that work?
Yeah, delegation, but again, because it's been a building effect, and so For instance, in my personal life, we're fortunate where my wife works at home with the kids.
Yeah.
She gave up her career for family, and since I was able to build a business that can afford us that's been really helpful. So she really handles our personal life in a way that I would be really hard. And so that's great. And then again, for my clinic, I've got a great practice manager. I got a great associate doctor who's he's the clinical director and handles a lot of stuff for me. So I can meet with them and they can handle the stuff. So it allows me to treat patients part-time. And then MCM, I've got an integrator, Becky, who's just does everything for the business and makes the vision happen. And so
Mm,
it allows me to do that. And then there's just a good book I'll reference, which helps give me perspective. And it's from Cal Newport called Slow Productivity. And just realize that like
mm,
it doesn't have to be done tomorrow.
yeah.
It's a process. Enjoy the process, and you will get there. Not everything has to be done today.
Yeah, and it's life is a marathon if we're lucky, right? Not a
It
sprint.
is.
And that's a
It's
good
true.
reminder for people like me who like to do it all and do it all
Yeah.
fast. And sometimes you need to
Mhm.
take a step back
Yeah.
and give your body and mind time to rest and reevaluate, what
Hmm.
is going to be the right thing for you at the given time. And hopefully, listeners, you've taken some value about this conversation. And when you think about growing your practice and growing yourself, how it all fits together, but also that you need to find a way to grow your practice in a way that suits you. And
Yeah.
that's the essence of, what I hope you gather from this show. Kevin, thank you so much. I want to,
Yeah.
commend you for 8 years of podcasting.
Mhm.
And that's actually 8 years of one show because I know you had
Yeah.
Modern Desk Jockey before that.
Yeah. So 9.5 years of podcasting and 8 with this current podcast.
Yeah, and it's not an easy feat. And it looks all
Mhm.
glamorous and sexy for the to the outsider sometimes. But anyone who has a podcast knows that there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that are, a lot of work and you've been
Mhm.
committed to it and you're certainly delivering something that's of value. And honestly, your shows are really easy to listen to. They've been in my rotation. I don't catch them all,
Mhm.
but so
Yeah.
every once in a while there's a topic I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to listen to Kevin talk about this." So really great job.
Mhm.
I
Thank you.
really commend you on not only being, the leading educator in your community on chiropractic and sports and athleticism, but also a leading educator for chiropractors. So thank you for that.
Mhm. Thank you. And thank you as well. And I commend you for all the hard work you've done.
Any final thoughts when it comes to practice growth or marketing for docs?
Yeah, don't be afraid to invest some money in growth and get clear on what that can be. If you need help, you can check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and we can help you out.
Yeah, and when it comes to trying new things, you talked
Mhm.
about this earlier, like try something, invest,
Yeah.
you're going to see, then take a step back and review if it works for you. If it
Mhm.
doesn't, that's okay. Something else is going
Yeah.
to evolve from that decision. So, yeah, listeners, be sure to check out all Dr. Kevin Christie's information and the services he provides are in the show notes. And you want to, attach yourself to his newsletter, great newsletter he writes as well, and just the podcast to stay informed about all things modern marketing and personal growth.
Thank you.